It's Friday afternoon on 21/6 The Net at 3:30. Could only mean one thing. Ask a Bookkeeper with Stephanie Conley from Steph's Books. Now, here's Stephanie.
Hey everybody in Facebook land. So before we get into all the fun of projects and expense management, since I know that's what everybody stresses about on a Friday afternoon, we're gonna have a celebratory beer from a local brewery, the Revolution Brewing Company out in Chicago, to celebrate that we survived tax season. So a shout out to all of my other bookkeepers and CPAs that tune in and listen. And so here we go. Hopefully you guys could hear that nice.
Tax season finishing in the middle of July. You deserve a beer.
Yeah, this has been the weirdest year since I started bookkeeping.
Wow.
So congratulations to everyone and their teams. And so let's get started with the QuickBooks fun. So we logged into the sample company now, as always. And now we're going to add a project. So you go to log into your QuickBooks. You need to have QuickBooks Plus or higher to have projects. So you click on the project feature and it will bring you to this screen here that we're on now. And then you click Start Project. And then you could put in a project name. We'll just put Steph's Books. And then you drop down to your client. We'll say that I'm part of Cool Cars. And then you could add any client notes, anything that you want to remember. So anything that you did on the job site, like you promised them a 10% discount if they paid in, net 15 terms versus net 30. They want to do, that they want to do custom upgrades, anything like that. So you put your little notes in there and reminders, and then you just save it. And it will bring you to the overview screen. So this screen here will kind of be your own private profit and loss statement for each of these individual projects. So as you invoice out, for invoicing, you could start off with creating an estimate and converting it to the invoice or project, which is probably the easiest way to do that. You could add change orders also through doing that on the transaction level on the client level. So all of your income and invoices that you bill out will be here in this section. And then any costs associated with the job. So your subcontractors, your hours, your materials, anything like that will be in here. And then so you have your income minus your costs equals your profit. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. And you could pull these project reports in here. So you could look at your profitability, your time cost by employer vendor. So if you have any subs or your employees use T-sheets, for example, that will all import in here. And it looks like we have a comment. Hi, Robert from Atlanta, Georgia. Thanks for tuning in. And then this I like here, this unbilled time and expense. This is your reminder. So let's say you go buy, some caulk for your project because it's a construction project and you need to bill this to the client because this isn't included in your proposal. Your proposal only includes labor. It does not include any type of materials. So you put the receipt in and you flag it to bill to client, but you don't want to send them these individual invoices for like $10 for this, $5 for this, these miscellaneous shop supplies. So you could save all of these invoice or all of these unbilled expenses and time here. And then when you're ready to send out the next phase invoice, so let's say you did your demo and the next phase is framing or something like that, then you would see on the right-hand side of the screen, it would pop up all of the unbilled expenses and time, and then you could click to add. So the nice thing about it is you could either add it so there is the detail and the client can see the 17-page invoice of all of this stuff, or you can filter it up and they'll just see the total labeled materials or time, and they'll just see that one singular line item versus all the individual line items. So those are kind of the nice features with that. I do want to point out, though, that QuickBooks does not include the overhead percentage in their job costing. So that is something that we do for our clients. We kind of help them figure out that average percentage, because you do need to add that in on the bottom line, or against the bottom line, I should say. So this way, then you can get that true profit for the job. So like, let's say your profit showing $10,000, but your overhead costs are, whatever, 25 or 10%. So you would need to deduct an additional $100 to get that true $9,000 profit. Or if your overhead is, really high, then that will obviously show you only had like a 1 or 2% profit on that job.
So you'd use this really kind of, like you said, as a running P&L for a project.
Yeah. So we have clients that kind of started off as like a guy in a truck, and they did more repairs and service related items. And then as they've grown and they've gotten, I guess, more comfortable in the space, they start taking on these bigger projects, and they're calculating everything and running totals in their head, which isn't necessarily
tough to do,
the best idea as you grow and add trucks. So if you want to start breaking into a new space, so like if you're, for example, if you're a plumber and you do service work, but now you want to get into bathroom remodels and you want to take it to that next level, well, we should definitely job cost those bathroom remodels, because it's a new venture for you, new source of revenue,
right.
And you might not have it calculated out as well as you thought in your head, because sometimes those job costing reports are a little shocking.
Wow.
But it really helps you to pivot. It really helps you to streamline some of your processes and really get some good feedback and information on where you're at. Because believe it or not, everybody out there, the bigger the project, the smaller the profit typically. Right. So, because there's a lot more surprises, there's a lot more features, upgrades, things to keep track of, time, or if you, so that's what we kind of help with that through the projects. This is pretty straightforward and simple to utilize, just because it's already in QuickBooks and you're using QuickBooks, so you can invoice out from it. And
so if you're bigger and you've got 8 projects going, you can use QuickBooks to have all 8 projects going at the same time.
Yeah, right? You could put as many projects in there as you want. One thing that I will tell everybody out there that I find the most common error with some clients with the projects feature is that they will enter things on the client level and not the project level. Huh. So when you're entering a receipt and you use the drop down and you put in cool cars, that will pull up on the customer level first, and then there's a slight indentation and it will say cool cars project, and you want to put those expenses and payments against that. Otherwise, it will kind of throw off the numbers slightly.
It's interesting. So what if you have a backhoe? It's an inside joke, folks.
So that's kind of how the projects feature works, the benefit of that. There are other more robust job costing and project management softwares out there, but I feel like this is a very good, easy to use starter platform. And like I said, the only thing that you really don't get with this is the overhead percentage, but that's something super simple that we could just throw on there.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, if you're a small business, like you said, you're starting off with 1 or 2 trucks and you don't need to get that bigger. you don't have to have the expense. If you're already using QuickBooks, you might as well just put each project right on here.
Right. And this also integrates with everything that you're already using too. So I strongly encourage everybody to use T-Sheets instead of an old-fashioned time clock. So T-Sheets integrates. Oh, hi Tim. Hi Derek. Integrates with QuickBooks, and it also integrates with ADP. I found that out thanks to Shannon the other week. She from ADP. She let me know. So so your T-sheet, so that your guys on job can say, hey, and they have access to your full customer list. So they could say, I logged in here for 4 hours, did this job, and then I went on to do this other job to excavate a water main or something.
Or something. So how many of your clients, when you show them this, were like, well, I had no idea it was there? And how hard is it for a small business owner to shift from, maybe doing the carbon copy paperwork stuff to this?
Well, actually, I was showing a client the other day some of the expense features and tools in QuickBooks. And now, I mean, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing to say, but now they've realized that they kind of maybe overstaffed their office.
Wow.
And they might downsize a little bit in that area, but it will save them and make them more efficient.
Yeah.
Like, for example, we were more focused on the receipts and expense management side. So she was having her staff enter each individual bill into QuickBooks. So like if you went to Subway for lunch, she would enter the bill for Subway and then look like you cut a check and label it as a debit card transaction and all that. And I'm like, well, really, you could just take a picture of this receipt and it uploads, and then it tells me, hey, there's a match on this expense side from your bank account. It lets me know. And then I could match it, and then the receipt is automatically attached as a PDF to your expense. And you could do the same exact thing with the projects. You could select the client or project, and you could even split it and code part of it to client A and part of it to client B.
So you really become more efficient.
Yeah. There's so many tools out there to streamline things and make you more efficient in the expense management and time management side of things. And people always say to me, well, I don't want to pay $20 a month for this software, or I don't want to pay $10 a month for the software. But then when you really sit down and look at the hourly wage, the work comp, the insurance, everything that you're paying for to have an in-house employee to manually enter these things, are you really you're really fighting me over the $20
right.
when I feel like you're paying them a little bit more, or even their skill set could be used to better go out and do sales or go out and do something else in the business to help grow it versus just being an overhead item, which is just, sucking off your profit. So, so we kind of go in and help clients and kind of show them all that fun things. And any software that we recommend, we've demoed, we've used, we've tested in our own business. So we sit down and do in-house training sessions with our clients. We sit down and make sure we send you guys cheat sheets through email. We make sure that you're comfortable with the software, you know how to use it, versus just saying, well, here, I recommend this and have at it.
Right. And of course, you are a QuickBooks guru.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a pro advisor. So that means that we have taken the test and passed it. So we know how to operate QuickBooks software.
Right. Well, it's important. I mean, because there's a lot of people out there who go to maybe take a night class or something, or an online course, and go, hey, I can be your bookkeeper. I know QuickBooks now.
Yeah, I met with a potential client, speaking of something like that, and they took a class at CLC on QuickBooks, but it was a class that was better served for like a manufacturing or service retail based company, and they're a construction company. And so they didn't really fully understand how to pivot to apply it to their own business to make it work for them. And so I recommended to them do some private training sessions with us, and we could show you how to work projects. We could show you how to enter the receipts. We could show you how to do that. Because sometimes it doesn't make sense to hire us completely on to handle all of that.
And this project, and using this for your projects, especially now after the Paycheck Protection Program that's out there, having great records for each project and things like that right now as a small business is key, especially if you tapped into some of that money, right?
The payroll protection
or the SBA or whatever, right?
Like that's more gonna apply for like your payroll, utilities, and your rent. If you got the EDIL SBA loan,
yeah.
So that one's different from like the SB7 and all those other SBA programs. That one specifically states in the loan documents that you have to have proper records kept on a monthly basis. You have to have your receipts. You have to have.
That would be something like this. It's not scratching it on a napkin while you're having coffee at the cafe before you go see your accountant. Right? I mean,
yeah, that would be frowned upon if
right.
you got audited.
Right.
But
so especially, I mean, while we're in this COVID and working through some of these things with the money that's out there and the money that some of the small businesses have taken advantage of, it's uber important to do this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not even just from like the loan perspectives of things. It's just a good tool and a good practice to have in your business, because as you're growing, how are you going to know that, when it's time to get, to raise your prices?
Right.
How are you going to, like, for example, right now, like rebar has gone up significantly in price. So clearly you need to see like the rebar prices from 2017, 2018 are not the same. They're almost doubled what they are now. So do you raise your prices? Do you have enough margin to kind of skate by with that, with not affecting your proposals? Are you still competitive against your competitors and stuff like that? So it kind of makes you really look at it, because when I first started out in bookkeeping 17 years ago, my boss was a plumbing company, and he opened in the 60s. And so he did all this like commercial plumbing where you like could fit like through the pipes, like walk, like he did like big stuff.
Well, you're not a real big person, so.
Well, no, I guess that's true, but it was impressive.
Yeah.
So he based a lot of he didn't really adjust his pricing.
He didn't know he had to
fit right? Kind of the
right,
like the inflation, just the percentage of just general inflation over the years.
That's amazing.
He kind of, I wouldn't say he kept his prices the same as they were in the 60s, but if he would have been a little bit more diligent in the job costing, he would have known that he needed to raise his prices. Because probably, I think 5 years after I had moved on to another opportunity, I heard from his daughter that they wound up closing the doors, because originally he was supposed to pass the company on to his son-in-law. So they didn't get to do that. Not really sure what's happened since, because it's been so long. But yeah, that's something that could really affect your ability to even keep your doors open if you don't know, and you got money in the bank, because these draws or payment schedules, you get a $50,000 check and you're like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
But are you really spending it on the proper projects? Are you taking client A's money and buying materials for client B because you didn't build enough money into client A? Or as an owner, I know I've personally been guilty of this too. When you're on site and you're talking to somebody and you're like, oh, this is such an easy fix, I could just take care of it for you right now while I'm here, versus billing them the $75 or whatever you would normally charge somebody for it. And you could really see that then in the job costing. Like, I gave them a free outlet, or I gave them a free camera or something, and you could really see over time all that free time or free miscellaneous items that really adds up to a big dollar amount. And you'll really catch all of that if it's done correctly. You'll catch all of that in the software. Oh, Alex from California says hi. Hi, Alex.
Hey,
on
Alex.
My watch party.
And of course, you're listening to 21.6 The Net, and this is Ask a Bookkeeper. with Steph Conley from Steph's Books. And the whole idea of this show's title is Ask a Bookkeeper. So if you have questions out there, we know we've got a lot of business of 1.8 million listeners. We've got a lot of business owners out there who probably have some questions. Unless you're me, there's really no dumb question. But ask her a question that you may have. She is mobile, so you work throughout several states and in the United States. So she can probably have an answer for you here on the air. If not, she can probably dig it up and get back with you. So feel free to ask her any questions that you may have.
Yeah. If you guys have questions on non-project related items, we could, pivot and I could answer any questions you may have. Because I know, for example, on Monday is the sales tax filing day. So any of you guys that have sales tax, the question I get a lot, or the shock that I get a lot from people, is people that have mobile businesses. So people that will use a Matco tool truck, for example.
Yeah.
So since all of the equipment, so the tools, everything like that is on the truck, and they do a sale in all these different cities like McHenry,
different sales tax,
Crystal Lake, Wonder Lake, all of the city's sales tax are different rates. And since the sales tax since the sale of the item physically takes place in that other city, you have to charge that rate and then pay that for your sales tax contribution. It's not just a straight one singular line item that you would normally do for one retail location.
Now, do pro athletes have to do that too? So if I play in Los Angeles, I have to.
Do you get paid from the state of Los Angeles or from the state of California? Or
I don't know.
If you receive revenues from various
There's
states,
not even any pro sports anymore. I don't know why I asked that.
If you receive revenue from various states, then yes, you if you're a W-2 employee.
There's a great company out there you should work with. Is Gold Shield Services. I help them out.
Do they install your cameras?
No, but we do have them running. It's wonderful.
But we have so if you're a business owner and I hire an employee from the state of Wisconsin, I then would be paying into the unemployment and
of that
state tax, the state withholdings of that state. So so on the payroll side of things, if you have people from various states, you pay various things, various state taxes.
Now
unemployment.
When you're dealing with small business owners, they come from a place where and I'll use Alex as example. I'm a plumber, and I do a good job plumbing, and I get a good reputation, and then I stop becoming a plumber and I have to become a business person. How hard is it for you to help people make that shift into thinking, well, I can go out and do this, to what is the cost on this project, and how to project that and work in those costs? Because as I'm listening to you, I'm watching your mind work, and I'm just fascinated, because that's a cool way to think. I don't think that way. Right. I'm like, oh, I'll just get it done. Well, let's figure it out, So it's how much of a transition is that for a lot of small businesses?
I think it all depends on what space and industry you're in. If it's common in your industry to do that, like construction and trades, even some of my IT clients that do implementations, they use the job costing. So it's a common feature in their industry. So they kind of think about it and utilize it. But if it's something like I don't know, like the radio station, for example, it's not like you guys have big projects. You guys have your people like myself that pay to play, and then that's it. You've determined that this price per minute is where it works for you guys financially. And it's pretty straightforward with that. I think that when you're in construction or trades, there's just so many variables that come up with materials costing more money. Like another example is concrete. In the summertime, you pay one price for concrete, but in the winter time, like fall, like October 5th, I think maybe is the change. you pay a different price per yard, which is
Really?
significantly higher for concrete. So if you're going to be doing spring and summer projects, you could charge one price. But if a client wants you to start in the fall or winter, then you should kind of put that surcharge in and pass that along to the client, because depending on how many yards it is, it does make a difference.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's just, but that's also because I've worked in construction for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of think about all of those things and run through all of those scenarios in my head. So that's why it's so easy to kind of help and train these clients on the project feature in QuickBooks, because I've been doing it for so long and stuff. And, you know, like, I know that my old boss didn't particularly like it, because he always tell me that I'm such a boner killer, because I always brought these doom and gloom scenarios for the job costing that he didn't want to factor in some of these surprises.
That would. but that's what I love about you, and that's what a lot of businesses need, is that guidance and just that honesty to say you can't afford it, or you know, you're losing money, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And a lot of business owners' pride doesn't want to hear that.
Right.
But I love that you think that way, and you help business owners think that way, because a lot of them just don't. That's why a lot of them fail. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, because once you start getting into that whole thing of robbing Peter to pay Paul, so for like using client B's money to pay for client C, or client A to pay for client B, and once you start that snowball, that's when I see a lot of these smaller construction renovation companies start to go under if they can't make a good, like a strong pivot and really stick to it. You know, it makes it that you just really, it's a hole you really have a hard time digging out.
It's hard, yeah.
So if you just start off right and start off doing it, then you shouldn't have any problems. Right.
Should be good. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, this half hour went way faster than I thought.
Well, that's because you cracked anti-hero at the beginning. To cheers to tax season, right? It's crazy. And I got an email at work, and it was, hey, you know, taxes are due tomorrow. I'm like, what are you talking? Oh my gosh, that's right. They stretched this out. Mine were done early, right? Because I don't make any money, so I wanted my return.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people, like all the small business owners that like have a K-1 or a Schedule C, would have had to file in order to, or at least get to the point of filing, in order to qualify for the PPP, because it was a required document, and that, you know, now got extended to August 8th. So any of you small business owners out there that didn't take advantage of it and you thought you missed the boat, you have till August 8th to apply. And they're still in votes and talks about anything $125,000 or less could be auto forgiven. So that is the next vote.
And of course, you know, tune in that week, because we'll probably crack another beer. Thank God we're done with that.
Yeah. So
fantastic. So for all the listeners out there, the 1.8 million listeners that we have listening including everybody out there on all the Facebook watch parties and things, how do they get in touch with you to grab your services?
They could give us a call at 847-942-3004. They could email me at steph@stephsbooks.com. They could go on our website at stephsbooks.com to fill out our contact form, and also get a rough price quote, because we have our pricing calculator on there. And we do a free consultation. So we offer a free QuickBooks health check. So we'll come in, I'll come in either via, depending on what state you're in, either you'd send me the file or invite me to your file, and I take a peek in there, give you some of my professional opinion, and we go from there. And you could take my advice for what it's worth to you, or you can
yeah, whatever you wanted to do. Roll it, smoke it, whatever, it's fine. Yeah. That's going to do it for this episode of Ask a Bookkeeper with Stephanie Conley from Steph's Bookkeeping Service. Check her out at www.stephsbooks.com. We'll be back on the 1st and the 3rd week of August. We'll look forward to it. Send her your questions. You can reach her at Steph@stephsbooks.com. Until then, keep everything in the ledger.